So to start us off, we are going to invite the PS, State Department for Agricultural Research, Professor Hamadi Boga, who is going to give us the keynote address for this session. And then from there, we are going to have a panel discussion with various representations whom we are going to announce after the keynote speech. So let's give a round of applause to Professor as he comes to the front. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I didn't quite capture the title the way it is framed, but most of the issues that I'm going to talk about and that we are dealing with in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Irrigation have to do with how we utilize environmental resources to support our livelihoods. So move to the next page, please. Just move. Yeah, so you know agriculture is very important for this country. And for agriculture to happen, we are talking about use of land for production, for livestock and crops, but also for fisheries. But at the same time, of course, we are in the sector that deals with environment. And directly, agriculture contributes about 31% of the GDP, and indirectly 27%. So if agriculture does well, the economy does well. If agriculture does poorly because of drought or whatever reason, the economy also does badly. And most of our agriculture is small scale, almost 80% or so. And so this is the area where we need to intervene to bring any transformation in the agriculture sector so that we can drive this Big Four agenda that we are all talking about, getting 100% food and nutrition security by 2022. Next slide. Just hit it quickly, please. So those are the mandates of the ministry. You know, since the 2010 Constitution, we have county governments and we have the national government. And the role of the ministry has mainly been policy formulation now. And the issues of research, and the issues of water storage, harvesting, and reclamation of land, agricultural mechanization, promotion of insurance issues, dealing with the issues of strategic food reserves, and management of biosafety issues. All those you can see when it comes to biosafety, when it comes to land reclamation and water harvesting, we are dealing with environmental issues. Of course, marketing and promotion, and control and management of pests. I know you have all heard of the fall armyworm. And of course, planning the maritime environment through fisheries and protecting the marine ecosystem also. Next slide. So we have 5 state departments. The Ministry of Agriculture is quite big. And the 5 are crops, livestock, fisheries, and blue economy. We tie that. And then irrigation. But in all these, you need the support of research and knowledge to drive anything. And the goal is to make sure that these departments help us to fulfill this article of the Constitution, where we say every person gets to be free from hunger and to have adequate food and of the acceptable quality. Yeah, next slide. Next. Yeah, so the strategies or strategic objectives of the ministry is to sort of create an enabling environment for agricultural development to take place. So working with farmers, small scale, large scale, investors, reduce post-harvest losses. We waste a lot of food, we lose a lot of food. The labor force in agriculture is aging, so getting youth to come in bring in irrigation because of the issues of drought, water harvesting, looking at each value chain from the beginning to the end, value addition and agro-processing, and improving market access, and making sure that our farmers move from djembe to mechanize their agriculture, and of course making sure that we are always building institutional capacity so that all our institutions that are acting in the agriculture sector, they are doing their role very well. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the dilemma that we are trying to do. These are the gaps, and I'm sorry they are a bit deficient, but basically for every commodity, up there you have maize, there's a deficit of 12 million bags, and then you have rice, it has a deficit of 425,000. It's a bigger deficit actually, we import most of our rice. Irish potato, there is a gap still, but here at least things are a little bit balanced. If you look at wheat, there's a very big deficit. So basically we are a deficit country. And these are the gaps we are trying to address for every commodity for us by 2022 to be able to feed ourselves and to have food of the right quality. Next slide. And so, because agriculture is big, if we grow agriculture, we grow the GDP. So we feel agriculture can contribute up to 3 trillion of GDP by 2022. We can irrigate up to 1.2 million acres by 2022. We can reduce post-harvest losses. This one from 30 to 15%, although we are being challenged to go further down. We can bring smallholder production by increasing incomes to about 2.7 trillion. Mechanization, right now we are at 25%, we push it to 40%, and that is not very helpful. And food affordability, making it more affordable for most of Kenyans, create jobs, create SMEs, and yeah. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So in the ministry, we have identified priority crops like maize, potato, rice, cotton. It's not like the others, we are not handling them, but these are the ones that have to do with food, what we consider food. Kenyan and maize and potato and rice, I think is critical. Cotton is both food and is also for the textile industry. But part of it goes into food also, especially for seed oil. And of course, the livestock and fisheries are still critical. And so the strategies that are being discussed in the ministries, is there more land for agriculture? Can we intensify instead of extensifying? Can we move towards commercialization and mechanization? And most of our strategies are directed in those areas, including irrigation. And we are still finalizing our Big Four document with the strategies, and it will be coming out soon. But these are the areas that we are focusing on, and these are the commodities that we are focusing on. The other industrial crops, for example, if you are in the coastal region, issues like cashew nuts, coconut, these are tree crops which are good for industrialization, for processing, and we are also focusing on those. What is informing our strategies is that we have to work with counties. Like I said, the ministry's policy, research, capacity building issues. But counties, that is where production and extension has to happen. So we have to sync our plans with the counties, and we have formed an institution called JASCOM to guide conversations with the counties. We also have to let the private sector take the lead on these issues. And as a ministry, of course, we monitor and see that things are moving forwards. But the goal is to make sure that our farmers earn more, and the extension services and advisory services are strong. I've just come from a meeting with AGRA and Bill and Melinda Gates, talking about how to use digital platforms to strengthen these advisory services. So technology will come in handy. And most important, invest in demand-driven research and innovation. Every crop you see is not picked from the world. It is developed, seed systems developed, and most of this work has been done by Calro. You don't see that. You see the maize in the field. But how it got there is a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice by researchers, and I acknowledge Mary here from JKUAT, who is working on indigenous vegetable. Even our indigenous vegetable right now, we have to develop seed system for them to be products that we can grow commercially. The issues of risks are key: floods, drought, price fluctuations, global events that impact on agriculture and agricultural productivity. We have to keep in check, because we can have all the systems in place, the seeds, everything, then the rain doesn't come. And that is why the move towards water storage and irrigation, and most important, embracing the digital era to manage all this. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, this is a bit faint, but basically we are saying we are going to focus on small-scale farmers, pastoralists, and fisher folks, and value addition and household resilient. We have identified that there are about 4 million Kenyans who are vulnerable to famine. So we try to put in place programs to address that. These are the pillars that are going to be in our agriculture sector growth and transformation strategy that is about to be launched. Next slide. Yeah, so from our side, we are feeling we need to put in place all this as a State Department of Agriculture Research to look at these areas which are affecting agricultural productivity. Because you know the science is there. The science to produce is there. What is affecting our farmers is not science so much as the governance of things, okay? So they could produce maize. Like this season, they are going to produce about 46,000 bags of maize. And then it doesn't get sold because of governance issues. Then they get discouraged. So even if you give them the best breeds, hybrids, seed, they are not going to take it because they know they will end up on the wrong end of the stick and they will waste their energy. So I think some of these issues, soft issues, are key to making sure that we get where we want. Next slide. Yeah, so our focus, and I'll stop at this slide, is as a State Department of Research, there are certain issues that are troubling agriculture. And under our State Department, we have CALRO, we have Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, we have CAGRIC, which is dealing with animal genetic resources, and we have Kentech, which is dealing with SETSE. We feel if the ecosystem is not healthy, agriculture will not be healthy. And you can see from the last rains, if you go to the coast right now, where all the water goes, you find rivers which have changed course because too much soil came. And too much soil comes because up here, the land use systems are not very sustainable. So conversations about Mau, conversations about other catchment areas are serious conversations that we need to talk about outside politics, because it means our livelihood is threatened and everybody else should focus on some of the interventions to fix these things. And we are not the only society who are facing challenges like this. Other societies during their development phase, like Japan, like Germany, they cleared all their forests. In fact, when you go to Germany, you see a lot of forests. They are not natural. They are all planted because they learned from their mistakes and they fixed it. And land use planning and zoning is a serious thing. But here, we politicize everything. And then even what is common sense becomes hard to do because the politics of the day does not support it. What happened? Okay. So conservation of ecosystem is key to sustainable agriculture. If we destroy the ecosystems, we cannot talk about a sustainable agriculture, and I think that is a basic reality. Agriculture requires soil, agriculture requires water, agriculture requires a lot of ecosystem services. It requires pollinators, you see. If there are no bees, there is not going to be production. And sometimes there are things that we do in terms of using chemical pesticides to control pests, but you clear other beneficial insects. So there is a lot of conversations that we need to have, and the media needs to help highlight some of these issues. I'm glad some of the media practitioners, especially in the area of agriculture, every weekend we see a lot of scientific information coming out, and I think we need to collaborate more. Yeah, Calro has a lot of new breeds, hybrid seed, for almost every crop or animal, or even indigenous chicken. I think the challenge is to get the private sector to commercialize that, because it's not the role of Calro to commercialize things. They put the things on the market. So for example, Kenya has been growing this 614 variety for over 20 years, but Calro has better varieties. So it's a question of how do we get seed companies and the private sector to embrace these new varieties. That applies to almost every crop. And one of the things we want to do is to assess these intellectual assets that are with our research institutions and make them available to stimulate economic production. Some of the maize varieties we were looking at in Katumani, they can grow in 65 days, and you have a crop and you are able to harvest, because our rainy seasons sometimes are getting shorter, and so on and so forth. A big thing is soil, and soil and environment go together. Our soil, through use of fertilizer, DAP, everybody likes DAP because it's like magic. You add it and things bloom. But in the process, acidity. So the soil becomes more acidic. So soil fertility goes down also. And of course, you generate greenhouse gases, nitrous oxide, which contributes to global warming. So again, there's a lot of work that is going on around the issues of soils. In Calro, we have the National Soil Survey Laboratory, and looking at soils and temperatures and rainfall regimes. We have soil suitability maps. What can you grow where? These are there, and we want counties, for example, to use that information as they promote value chains. You can't grow maize everywhere, okay? You can't grow maize everywhere. Only 5% is highly suitable for maize in Kenya, only 5%. And 31% is moderately suitable. So that means you have to invest more for the same bag. We are doing 15 bags per acre. It's supposed to be like 40 bags when the productivity matrices are measured. So I think from science we can improve things. We can generate products that adapt to climate, and our scientists are doing a good work. But I think one of the things where we need the media to help is make our society not a political society, but a society that is driven by logic, scientific facts, scientific realities, because certain things don't change. The politics can change, but certain things are fixed, and they are like that, okay? And these are the things that really, really impact on our lives. And the more we can have a more reasonable discourse around them, the better solutions we can formulate for sustainability. So climate change is real. The issue of water scarcity is real. The issue of soil degradation is real. And their impact on livelihood is, you can't question that. You can't question that. And of course, the issues of market are very important for the issues of what the farmers will grow. And we are also looking at every value chain and looking at the end of that value chain, how the market situation is, so that as farmers work, they don't waste their energies. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to collaborate, to have conversations on factual things and on things that really impact on all of us, and where we can really intervene together and make a difference and assure food security, while making sure food security and environmental sustainability go together. And this conversation has to be understood by even the smallest primary school kid, that protecting the environment assures livelihood for everybody. Other societies, like the issue of plastic ban, that is a common sense ban, really. Or the way you manage waste is a common sense thing. If you go to other societies, even a kid like this, they know you have to separate your waste. They know you have to reuse it. They know there is actually no waste. These are just materials in this circulation. You have all done the carbon cycle in primary school. And everything is carbon and it's circulating. So it depends on where you are, and you can use it as an input into another process. And I think the moment we move from the idea that there is waste, we can also help ourselves and help the environment. Thank you very much, and let me stop there.
Thank you so much, PS, Professor Hamandi Boga. And I mean, that reminds us what Mr. White said, that you cannot, a man cannot live by maize alone. We heard that, CEO. And that's why when he says that you cannot grow maize everywhere, only 5% of Kenya can sustain maize, then you know what that means. So there is a basis to the Big Four agenda in that regard. Now, because we have two more highlights in form of presentations, before we invite the panelists to the front, I would like them to just take us through the presentation, then we'll have them together with Susan, the moderator, then we'll have around 15 to 30 minutes of an engagement. Is that okay? So I would like to invite Professor Abukuta to take us through. If you can take around 5 minutes, we'll be very happy, but just see what you can do. Thank you so much. Professor Abukuta is the DVC, Research, Production and Extension at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. So you'll be able to engage her more.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, my presentation is to give you, that's the wrong one. As it comes, I just want to give you some highlights about what we are doing in Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology with regard to food security and agriculture and related disciplines in terms of research, production, extension, and also in terms of training. And in the slide, for those who know Jomo Kenyatta, it's a university that deals with training, research, innovation development, and for development. So that means that the university has a division called Research, Production and Extension, which I head, and that division actually deals with the research process, coming from research, picking up from what the PS Agricultural Research has said. Research is very important. Okay, this is where I am. That is research, production, extension, where we are doing research, we are doing innovation development and commercialization, dissemination and partnership. Please move to the next slide. And then we have thematic areas, one of which is agriculture, among others that also touch on the other three pillars. Agriculture, even we have research dealing with other pillars apart from the agriculture, but today we are focusing on agriculture and food security. Next, please. And we also have centers of excellence in research, and we have just highlighted there. Next, please. And then those centers of excellence, we have those dealing with the conservation, that's environment, water, which affects research, and also a center of excellence in legumes. Next, please. And then we see that in the research investment, agriculture and food security takes the highest, over 50% of the investment within the university budget from with the internal and external funding. Next, please. And then you find food security has several sub-themes, like the PS has said. We have issues dealing across, starting from production, soils, nutrition, and also we have specific programs exploiting other unconventional foods like insects for food and feed. Next, please. Then we have environment and infrastructure technologies within the university that are ready for dissemination. Next, please. Water resources is very important. The PS talked about water as a key thing. We have a whole center of excellence where we have technologies on how to tap water, harvest water when there is a lot of rain, and how we can now use it appropriately. Next, please. And then we have some of the products. We have about 45 innovations within Jomo Kenyatta University, and these are some of them. Just highlight irrigation manager. You can just see. I don't want to go through them, but we have several of them. Next, please. And then if you go through the innovation process, we find that as you develop research technologies, they have to reach the end user. And the weakest point within Kenya, JKUAT included is the dissemination aspect. And that's where now we are looking at the media to help us. Next, please. Just keep on, just to the end. So these are major challenges. Please continue until it's complete. So there's negative mind. Go back one slide, please. There is negative mindset. There's bureaucracy. I'm talking about the relationship between research outputs lying on the shelves, in whether you're talking about CalRO or talking about universities. We have so much that we've done, and this is not reaching the end users, some of which can help us. There's a fear of us researchers dealing with the media. There is mistrust. There is also unprofessionalism. There are many things that we need to sort out, but we know that you can play a part. Media can play a part in disseminating technologies to the end users in a simple way. Next, please. So the role of media, you can create awareness, you can foster support, rapport between researchers and the public, because sometimes universities or researchers are looked at as people talking their own language. You can educate, you can analyze issues, you can also technology transfer in a way that people can use the technology we have developed. Next, please. JKUAT is embracing some opportunities. JKUAT has a communication office which links with the media. We have established a research production extension division, which I've just talked about. And then we have other things. We have capacity building programs in agriculture, environment, ICT, and media. And we have many other opportunities that we can tap in to interact with the media for us to translate the technologies and innovations we have to the end users to contribute to food security and development. So that one just shows some of the extension technology transfer activities at JKUAT. Someone was asking about noodles. That one we're also doing it. I think during lunch, someone asked. It's part of what we are trying to pass to the public. We use different methods, one of which is TV and media. Next, please. You can see we also use the print media to disseminate information. We use radio, TV, internet, and social media. Next. Then one I would like to talk about is Mukulima TV, which started about in 2010, and we have been working with them together with CalRO, and we have been actually, if you watch TV, KBC on Sundays at 4, you will see a lot of our programs between KBC, CalRO, and JKUAT. Next. Here, we are partnering with various media houses, one of which I want to talk about. The most recent is Smart Harvest. We had an MOU in April this year. The first print came out on 21st April, and the latest one came out, I think, last Saturday, where we are trying to share our technologies with the public. Next, please. This is where we are signing the contract. This is the last, I think this is the last episode, the last print. And then we have, move on. College of Agriculture is teaching about agriculture. We have Energy Institute, which is talking about environmental issues. We teach media-related courses in the Department of Media, Technology, and Applied Communication, and Developmental Studies, and Information and Communication Technology. So we have two issues. We have research technologies, and we have also the training in appropriate areas in agriculture and in media. So the two have to link together. Next, please. So this just gives some of the courses that we offer in media. Next. And then sample studies of what some of the students have done. For example, effects of television on agricultural shows on to farmers, a case study of small-scale farmers in Kikuyu constituency. So studies have been done which you can look at how is the best way forward if you look at these studies. Next, please. Then here is just showing what we have done in the Institute of Energy and Environmental Technologies we have there. Next, please. And then we have ICT training, which is also key for communication of technologies. Next, please. And then here we have Department of Social Media and Customer Relations. Social media is a special department for, especially for the young people who like social media. So we exploit that also to disseminate our information to the public, especially the young people in agricultural, those who will want to do agricultural technologies. Next, please. A role of media is crucial. I think that's the last slide. Next. I think the last one.
Yo, thank you, Professor. I mean, she highlighted one big challenge, fear of misrepresentation by the media. That's why we are here today. And I think now that we have Honorable Pamela, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, it's the same fear that a politician has, you know, especially in developed countries, the fear of being misrepresented by the media. And there's a question of, she spoke about various studies. I hope somebody's going to ask those questions. These studies, what have they established in reality so that when she comes to the front, she will be able to, you know, expound on that and give us some concrete data, concrete information and feedback on that. And now, I really don't think I need to introduce Honorable Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. I think we all know her in the media. She's, you know, I mean, she's heard all of on TV and radio, and she's very passionate about many things. And when I talked to Dr. Eddie Odari, one of the things he told me about is that Mwalimu is passionate about sustainable living and issues related to the environment. I don't know, I'm here to prove that. Mheshimiwa, karibu. Please, let's have a presentation.
Thank you very much. My name is Pamela Odhiambo, as you have been told. I am a mother, a wife to one husband, and a pastor, and a representative of Migori County in the National Assembly. May I acknowledge once more my seniors, Professor Boga, Professor Mukutsu. So JK Watt is well represented here. My presentation is going to be the shortest because I was actually called as a discussant, but I thought there was something small that I just wanted to share with us, just to encourage Professor Boga that it is actually doable, it is actually practical. So in my background, I was just trying to see if the audience here understand what I call food security the way I do it, defining it as a situation in which all people at all times have the physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, which meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. And I didn't want to be so detailed or belabor on that. I also thought it was important to mention that Kenya's long-term vision, as enshrined in Vision 2030, is to transform our country from its current status into a newly industrializing or industrialized middle-income country, providing a high-quality life to all its citizens. There is no way we can talk about high-quality life with no food in our stomachs and a good environment around us. And in the Big Four agenda, I am aware that the Treasury has allocated that much towards food security and nutrition to all Kenyans by 2022, and additional 2.4 billion to support value addition activities in Kenya. And that further is supported by a lot of policy framework as outlined in that slide. Just move on. And so I went very direct to say that as far as I'm concerned, there is glaring opportunity for the participation of all to realize our dream. The government has declared food security as one of its big agendas, and that means a political goodwill. So somebody cannot say, now political environment is hostile, we cannot do this and that. And I know in Kenya we have a lot of underutilized agricultural land. If you were to fly, for example, between here and Migori County, where I come from, you will behold the entire part of Rift Valley and even Migori County and everywhere. There is a lot of land, agricultural land, that is unused. Then there is local and international markets present, which present a big marketing opportunity for whatever we can locally produce. And then, this is just to encourage the media fraternity, ready and expectant audience. What I meant here is that majority of Kenyans, especially the young population, they actually live on a daily basis on what is the media saying, what is in the TV, what is on the radio, you know, the social media. So whatever information that the media would take time to send out there definitely will get some interested audience and possible partners and stakeholders. And so there is a need, or there is an opportunity to brand Kenyan's farm produce. I think over the years I've witnessed that most of the time when you go shopping, like even in the supermarkets, we would prefer to buy vegetables from Malaysia or something like that. Why not buy one from Homa Bay or Kikuyu in Kiambu? Favorable climatic conditions, much as Professor is talking about the changes in the climate, but I think by and large, Kenya still has a climate which is favorable to production of food. Improved water supply, I think he has talked about irrigation and all that. Just move on. And so the challenges that I think may need to be addressed very strongly and consistently is the frequent droughts in most parts of our country, including Migori County. A big chunk of our land is becoming ASAL, and I think these droughts need to be addressed. High cost of domestic food production, inputs like fertilizers or even technological machines and things like that, their prices are still a bit too high for the ordinary Kenyan. And then there is this challenge of migration from rural to urban by the young and energetic population. I think it is a big challenge. Most of our people, even the young agriculturalists that are trained by J.K. Iwata, know it's doing a good job. But after the exams, you find these guys are stuck in the corridors of Nairobi. They don't want to go back to the rural. I think that is a challenging thing that we need to address. And low purchasing powers due to poverty, I think that's almost very obvious. Most rural households are that poor. And then there is poor imagery of farming. Most of the time, I know, sometimes the media have tried to highlight some successful farmer, but I've also observed that we get some very old gray-haired man So this mentality has engrossed into our young people. They think farming is left for the elderly. And if you are young and beautiful like me after giving birth to 11 children, you don't need to go to the farm. You know, these are issues that may need to be dealt with so that we migrate our people from thinking that we can only be successful and beautiful when we do white-collar jobs and not really on the land. And then lack of diversified agricultural activities. I think Professor already said that, where most of the time everybody, if you go to Migori County, everyone is struggling to plant maize. And then, so what? Where are the other things? So there is a need to really shout about the different agricultural produce that we can actually grow, especially in the light of the new concept of agribusiness. This general negative attitude towards farming cannot be overemphasized. I think from the practical experience and my engagement with the youth, it is something that is a big challenge and we need to address it. Just move on. And so, the next slide, rather. So what role do I think that the media may play to help us, help ourselves? I sum up this as simply communication and information on agricultural production, nutrition, and food security in general. And so serious campaigns, sensitization programs to talk about the actual food security situation in the country and in the world, and the health and nutrition. You know, in some of our communities, people just eat because they eat. They are not really eating because they know whatever they eat affects how healthy they are. About innovation and appropriate technology, like you see, Jomo Kenyatta, actually, my incitement, I'm not an agriculturalist, but I think my interest and passion about what we are discussing today came from Jomo Kenyatta when I was doing my part of my PhD research as working with women-led organizations. What contribution do they have on the socioeconomic status of the societies? And that is when I developed the interest. I was doing something on value addition to milk. So I took a campaign of making probiotic yogurt to these communities with milk. I went to Narok, I went to Vihiga, I went to Migori. And as we sit here today, I'm glad to report that at Keyan, if you visited Keyan Ranch, you'll find they are there producing this milk. And so the wasted that they really used to have before is now taken care of. If you go to Olololunga and you go to Vihiga County, Emuhaya, you'll find some of the traces of some things that I planted there. And of course in Rongo, in my own county. We need to do a bridge the gap between the farmers, the urban consumers, the market, the government as policy makers. Like he said, many rural dwellers are not even aware of these policies that the government has made. So there is a real need to shout about it so that we keep pushing this information forth and back. And by the end of the day, the entire Kenyan population is actually at par. Advocacy. I really want to appeal to the media fraternity. If we can make a deliberate effort, let me tell you what I've always observed. Sometimes when we bring news anchors, they look so pretty and beautiful. I wish we could use these people also to rebrand agriculture and the entire process so that we attract as many people. Sometimes when we talk about agriculture, it is dull, gloomy, and something like that. So I'm talking about a deliberate effort by the media instead of giving us too much politics. Like I was saying, if you go to any home in Kenya, like Kwetu, I'm shocking you, Professor, when you will come there, because I want you to come and see what I'm doing on the ground. They see your vehicle and then they will tell you, oh, Tibim, right? You know, the Tibim thing is so much in the ears of the children. How I wish that we would make a deliberate advocacy to energize not only the government. You know, the government sometimes suffers a lot of wrath, and I wonder who really is the government. The government has policies, has set aside budgets, but somehow most of the time we are more critics of the government than really supporting what the government is actually doing. Can we make positive noise about it and let the population know that this is good, that the government, even if you don't like the person on the seat, but whatever is being rolled out is good for you, go for it. And that way we will help our population. And the local producers and the consumers. We need to incite and psych our people about food production and the environmental issues. Like most of the time you find that when there is a disaster, like the other day there was rain sweeping people, it is a one-time thing, and then the entire population again forgets about it. Can we keep it live and make people remember that every day, wake up and make sure the tree next to you is not cut, plant another one, however short or long it is, it will help us. And of course, I would like to repeat, rebranding and repackaging agriculture, to me, is the key. Through the mainstream media, print media, TV, radio, social media, and we can use prominent young personalities, professionals, and leaders of all category to make the Kenyan people know that our life is actually dependent on agriculture. The following slides, move on. I think just to move on, I don't know why it's not coming out. Something is not right. I'm missing, there were just pictures of some activities that I've been able to do on the ground within the short time that I've been leading Migori County since March this year, when the IFMI started working, you know, after the handshake. I managed to have, I've initiated a campaign for major tree planting. As I sit here today, I'm happy that you know, the government announced some planting of trees national-wide, but they were targeting public institutions. But look, I realized where the damage is most is the private land. My own land, your own land. And so I was like, how then do we do this? So I came up with an idea. I said I would coalesce with the Kenya Forestry and all the other agencies, and through my office, I would make seedlings available to young people. But I would pay them not for planting it on my shamba, but on their own shamba. So I would give them some small incentive, and they plant it either in their grandfather's land or something like that. And it is ongoing, and I'm very happy about it. I have been able to introduce some greenhouses there because of those extreme weather conditions, like in places like Nyatike and the rest of them. I have been able to engage some young men with some horticulture knowledge, and he's been able to train for me others to grow seedlings of papaya. We have been able to plant like about 7,000 of them, and it is ongoing. And I've been able to buy water tanks to help women harvest rainwater. I know water is devolved, so I may not be able to do the boreholes or piping. That is the county government's work. I hope they will do it, and we will meet somewhere along the way. And value addition, as I sit here today, I'm happy that some women have been able to make some value-added products, like from groundnuts. They have made the spreads and the cooking oil. We have branded the peanut jam, and they see already in the market. I'm working on the cooking oil from the same groundnut. We are doing the milk, which I've talked about, is already in the shelves. And other products like those pawpaws and fruits we are planting, my main aim with them is value addition through some of this simple technology and innovation that I know are housed here in JKUAT. And with that, colleagues, thank you very much for listening to me. God bless you.
You've been challenged. What are you doing in agriculture, in the environment sector? Are you living sustainably? Thank you. Susan, please, you have 30 minutes or less. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to invite my panelists to the stage, please. You've already met some of them, but I would like them to introduce themselves right from the end, from Mr. Masharia. coming this way. And as you introduce yourself, I'd like you to, okay, perhaps I should introduce myself first. My name is Susan Mumbi, and I work with Nation Media Group. I am an editor with the East African newspaper. I have an interest in environment and food security matters, and I think that is why I am here as your moderator for this afternoon. So we will start with Mr. Macharia. Please, as you introduce yourself, I'd like you to tell us what partnerships you currently have with the media and what more could the media do for you.
Thank you. My name is Ajub Macharia. I work with the Ministry of Environment as the Director in charge of Environmental Education and Awareness. Although there is a department dealing with issues to do with communication, I also work closely with them, mainly bridging the technical aspect of environment and communication. So we act as a bridge. So we are just across there. And we have interacted with the media for some time. And one of the challenges we have been facing is lack of funds. You all know that we have come from 2 elections last year, and we still made sure that environmental issues were at the top of the agenda, even in terms of public awareness. So how we did this is we had these strategic partnerships with the media, and one of the media houses that has been very receptive to us is Nation Media. And you are aware that there is one time, last year is when we did the ban on the plastic bag, and we had, the people needed to know the alternatives, and we had to do an exhibition at KICC, and I didn't have money. And so we had to work on a model where the exhibition took place being paid by other partners whom we were regulating. And during the same period, I invited other media houses, but when they heard my story, they ran away. It's only Nation Media that was willing to partner with us. But out of that, generally, it doesn't mean that we are beggars as government, although we don't have money. We also have, our name is our goodwill is big enough to make sure that your bottom line is good. So what we have been doing is we do everything in partnerships, and we make sure that we share our partners with the media houses, and some of them are rich enough to support this initiative so that we don't pay it ourselves. The other aspect that I would like to emphasize is on the media. We are a ministry that has several radio stations. We have 5 radio stations which broadcast in local language. Why we did this is because when we come to disasters, we need to evacuate people very quickly, and we cannot do that when we have radio stations that are commercially driven. So we had to get our own so that we can quickly tell people that floods are coming, please run away, move to higher ground. And that is the reason why we had our 5 radio stations. But we have expanded to talk about other environmental information. The other aspect is the social media. To us, the media aspect is broad, and we use the social media a lot. We already have a curriculum to train the social media practitioners, and especially the bloggers, the Twitters, and the Facebooks. So we conduct that training, and that is our main target, so that environment agenda is threading throughout. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Professor Amadi Boga. I'm the Principal Secretary in charge of Agriculture Research, which is a new state department. But the ministry has a communication unit that deals with most of the media issues. So when we have events, we invite the media to our events and try to engage them and see that the issues that we want to reach out to the rest of the stakeholders is disseminated. Most of the time, we get into the news for interesting things like sugar and maize. But so most of the other work that is really a lot of work that is going on does not make the news in a systematic way. But we try to partner, and there are some journalists who are interested in certain areas. We give them access. We are not completely media shy. We also have the Agriculture Information Resource Center, and which for a long time has been doing the Sauti ya Mkulima and other production. So it has a studio. They're able to produce both video and audio. I think part of the challenge is just to get sponsorship for some of these things so that we can reach out. Of course, we use the other social media platforms also to disseminate information. I think what I need from the media, especially around scientific issues, you know, science is science, and science has to be discussed in carefully. So sometimes you find we are dealing with the controversial issues, not that they are controversial from the scientific perspective, but in society they are controversial. So issues like the use of biotechnology in agriculture, I think the media has an obligation to report things properly with a sound scientific basis. There is enough literature to guide people, and we have enough scientists in this country who understand these technologies properly, and we should be using them as sources for discussing some of these things instead of plucking issues from the internet. Not everything that is on the internet is true. And the scientific community, I feel, and I was part of that, I'm still part of that, frustrated that some of the scientific discourse is really not informed by scientists, and I hope we can work together around that issue.
Thank you once again. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. I'm the Migori County Women Representative in the National Assembly. My area of specialization is not really agriculture, but I am a strategist. I'm a strategic manager. And I think I already have a good rapport with the media. Thank you for the various media houses that have always accorded me a chance to talk not only to the people of Migori, but the nation of Kenya as a whole. Most of these partnerships have so far rotated around. Maybe when I have functions, I call media to come. They have always come and did reports, even though, again, some of these reports, especially those on development agendas, much of it does not come out so strongly the way I would have loved. And I think this is where I have a request that knowing the area I'm representing, Migori is a very active population. You know, they are vigorous, and I think in that county, I need more of development information, more of these innovative research information, so that the people can get a different perspective of life. There is too much politicking, which is good, but I don't think, it's very healthy, especially in line with the theme of what we are doing. I would like to see many young people of Migori realize that they are actually sitting on gold, which is land. Apart from that, I think all these things I'm talking about, and even what I want to do in my new career, I would like it to go on some print. So I'm intending to launch soon some magazine or some newsletter. I would appeal to your professionalism to help me have some regular release of some magazine that can inform my people about my role, the role of others, and what we are doing and what we are intending to do, and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is William Kirwa, a doctoral fellow at Strathmore Business School, and also advisor to the Dean in Agribusiness Department, or Agribusiness Unit. I know you might be wondering, what is Strathmore doing in agribusiness? And we have realized as a university that much as we talk about agriculture, it doesn't happen until we were able to see the sense in the agribusiness. If the youth can be able to see that they can make money in agriculture, if the farmers can see the opportunity that they raise in value addition, the opportunity that they raise in proper production, what we are saying is, if they can see the coins in this agribusiness, that is where we will hit the road. Agriculture today in our country, we say it's 80% of our people, and even a big contribution of our GDP is on the basis of the agriculture sector. But why isn't this translating? What is the problem that we are facing as a country? Why isn't it translating to being able to see that actually Kenya can be self-sustaining in food security? How can we then, as players in the sector, be able to work together, those in the research institutions, those in the business institutions, those in the media? How can we communicate the fact that we can be self-sustaining as a country? And what are the areas that we need to do quick wins? When you look, for example, a small chain of cereal production, maize, we're saying, and the peers did mention that we are lacking 12 million bags of maize. Now, an honest question to ask ourselves is, do you think Kenya can produce that amount? Do we think we can? That's a question we need to ask. What do we need to do? But when you look at the fact that certain farmers in certain areas would complain and say, probably the government has not bought our maize. There is issues of poor storage, spoilage of the product, and yet we are saying we don't have sufficient quantities. You can obviously see that there's a big mismatch there. And probably that is the area we need to address. Should we go, for example, as a country, and looking at it from a business perspective, should we go to a situation where we are subsidizing production, or we are subsidizing the price after the production? In other words, should the farmer be subsidized to produce well to be competitive, or should we subsidize the purchase so that if the market price of maize, for example, is 1,800 a bag, should we pay 3,000? Or should we say the farmer should be able to get fertilizer at an affordable rate and be able to be efficient in their production? So I think these are the questions that, from a business perspective, we feel that we need to crack so that we can be able to be self-sufficient as a country. Looking at, for example, the price of the market price, it's not realistic. But then we are creating a laguna where we are giving opportunities to make money very easily. Is that what we want to do as a country in terms of addressing the shortages that we have? At subsidizing the farmer, we are providing fertilizer. Is there a better way of doing this? And more importantly, can we help our farmers to be able to produce more efficiently, more productively, and can they be helped to understand the production methods? What's the role of the media? Should we then work together and say, these are the gaps and probably this is the information that needs to get out there? How about as a country? Do we need to look at the big projects, especially when we talk of the Agenda 4? The big irrigation projects that we should be looking at as a country. Issues of saying the Galana irrigation project. I'm talking about that because as a CEO of ADC, I was involved in doing the cabinet memo that gave birth to the Galana irrigation scheme. But then we should ask ourselves critical questions. What went wrong? Why hasn't it achieved what was intended? And what could be rectified to be able to look at this country and say, yes, we can do it. We can actually be self-sufficient. We can even be a net exporter of this agricultural production. So I think we will continue to talk about that as we discuss this issue, but I'm glad, and I would want to thank the Media Council for bringing these issues so that we can deliberate on them. Thank you.
My name is Mary Abukutsa Onyango. I'm a researcher. I am a professor of horticulture, and I'm also Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of research, production, and extension at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. First and foremost, I want to highlight my interaction with media as a researcher and also as a university JKUAT. I started my research in indigenous vegetables in 1991, and it was not until 2008 when I underwent a training on how to communicate with media, because many of us professors and researchers talk jargon. That is when, 2009, my research came into the limelight because I started interacting with the various international and local media. Secondly, at the university, we have been having a collaboration with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation since 2001, first informally, and secondly, 2010, formally, we signed an MOU to start a program called Mukulima TV. Mukulima TV is a program that Jomo Kenyatta University has entered into with KALRO. That time it was KARI and Jomo Kenyatta University, and to ensure that we are passing technologies in a language and in a channel that the end user can understand. It's a Swahili program. And on that, many times I've actually appeared on TV, KBC and other TV stations to talk about my research area in that program. And then we have also had a program called Farmer Voice Radio at the Jomo Kenyatta University, and I was a participant in that, and we are collaborating with KBC also, where we were actually using our students as interns to go to the farmers, get information, record programs, and put them on KBC so that they can be understood or heard, and then create a platform of discussion, question, and answer. Then in the recent past, as a Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of research, production, and extension, having seen that me as a researcher had benefited from interaction with media, we entered into partnership with the Standard Media Group early this year, where we are now started a pull-out on Saturday called Smart Harvest and Technology, something similar to Seeds of Gold, where we have almost over 40, 50 technologies that have been lying on the shelf, so to speak, because we've tried to disseminate them, but many people don't know. So if you buy your Standard on Saturday, you'll find every Saturday you will get such information. And we have had actually about 15 pull-outs since we started in April up to the last episode, print last year. We have also had attachment of students because we have a program on media, technology, and journalism, so that these students who are doing this program, they are also being attached to media houses, various media houses. Now, my appeal is that researchers and media must speak. The university and people who are in the so-called high institution of learning must speak to media. Both the media people and the researchers have to be trained, because the media have their way, their interests. They want something, a little lie here and there to make the story sell, but the researcher wants facts. So we need to be able to talk to each other for two reasons, or for mainly one, to ensure that all the technology we have reach the end users, and also in agriculture we are able to influence the young people who are the future farmers, the future producers, because Kenya is an agricultural country and we must talk to these young people for them to embrace agriculture. Thank you.
Okay, we've heard from all our panelists, some of them slightly longer than the others, but it's been a good opening for them to tell us what they're up to and how the media can help them. Now, I'd like to ask particularly Mr. Macharia, just one question which he can answer briefly. Since, I guess, independence, Kenya has been farming and farming and farming, but still every year we get Kenyans for Kenya, drought, maize is rotten, sugar has mercury, and all sorts of stories come out in the media. What do we need to change as Kenyans to get us to be food secure? Just 2 minutes maximum.
Thank you. Dynamism of environmental challenges has been increasing in terms of magnitude. So every year when we look at ourselves, our environment, only recently we are celebrating some success. When we look at tree cover, which has increased from 2% to now 7.2%. I think Kenya is really celebrating for that. But in many areas, we have not had a chance to celebrate. Like in food, issues to do with farming and food, I think what the PS presented is deficit after deficit. And when you go to Malindi, for example, especially when it rains, you realize that there is a lot of soil that has been deposited there, and the newfound land is increasing from the soil coming from the highlands of Kenya. And so, what has not been done? Of course, the simple answer is that Kenyans, you may think that they are aware about how to deal with environmental challenges, and even food issues to do with food security, but they are not. I went to Kisumu one day, and I'm picking Kisumu because that's where our program was. We had a schools program called the Green Schools Program, and we had selected several schools, but I happened to monitor in Kisumu County. And we went to one school, and we were addressed by the head teacher. And the head teacher showed us some place where he had planted trees. And he commented and said that we planted about 500 trees here, but they could not grow, they dried up because we planted them when they were inside the polythene bag. And this is a head teacher. So what does that tell you? It's a simple activity, planting a tree. But he did not remove the polythene bag. And so, what of a person who is not as educated as that teacher? So, the issue of public awareness is critical, and we need to really emphasize on that. And there are opportunities for the media, because in this country, issues to do with food, for example, there is a lot of dynamism in terms of the food that grows in Mombasa. You know, in Kenya, we are lucky, we have coastline and all the ecosystems up to the top of the mountain, the high altitude. So there is a lot of dynamism. Maize can only grow in this area. Sweet potatoes can only grow in this area. And then still in the same path, a lot of diversity. So we are not short of stories. I think the only thing that is lacking, why we are not doing very well, is we have failed to emphasize issues to do with wrath. Wrath means dangers. We have to make something to look that if you don't do this, this is going to happen. And actually it happens. Wangari Maathai told us that if you play around with nature, when it fights back, it fights with impunity. The other aspect is we have not sensationalized our issues enough. When I was the CEO of NEMA, one time, I used to make sure that I have a story every week with the media. And what I used to do is, if I want to say that it is wrong to construct a house without an EIA, you know that's not a story, yeah? But if you say, I will arrest CEOs who construct without EIAs, then the media pick that very quickly, because they know that we arrest big people, okay? Sensationalizing, okay? So how can media sensationalize our stories? Don't sensationalize only politics that in 2022 it will be so and so, okay? But even for food, we can do the same. We can turn around our stories to become sensational, okay? And I think those are some of the things that have been lacking, and also utilizing the opportunity that we have, that the environment is wealth. We have a lot of, if we care about our environment, they will be very rich. Kenya is a global city for environment, you know? Putting our stories in a sensational way would help us a lot, and it will change it will work on these heads. Hizi vichwa zetu, yeah? Ndizo zinaharibu nchi yetu, zinatufanya tuwe poor, even food we don't have because of our heads, our population. Look at what we are doing. Another way sensationalizing, at the population ni votes. Yeah? What about low population? What does it mean? You'll be ruled by so and so. But not forgetting that in Denmark, they have not increased the population from 5 million for the last 10 years. There have been 5 million people in Denmark. And now they are so rich, they are very happy. What about Kenya? Bad. So it depends on which side you want to sensationalize. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Macharia. Now we have time for maybe 2 questions from our audience.
I'm Edward Kusea. I'm also a researcher and an academician from St. Paul's University. My question goes to the PS. It seems from your presentation, you're somebody who has a lot of experience in agriculture. And therefore, I want to ask you an agricultural question, though I'm not an agriculturalist. We are talking about precision agriculture that's using geospatial information, using GIS information and satellite information to inform farmers on how to cost save. Just using open source data, for example, using satellite imagery and geospatial information to see which patterns exist and where we can apply the different interventions in farms. How far is the ministry going to embrace some of these modern technologies? I've been privileged to have done a course on open data management in agriculture and nutrition. I was very impressed with something called Open Skies in the UK, and I hope, JK, you are now going to start talking about growing up indigenous vegetables using precision agriculture and geospatial information. Thank you very much.
I like your thought, Ayub, of sensationalizing agriculture and environment so that it can be more adaptable to our small and big brains. My question goes to the PS. There was, just going back to what he said about open data, there was a program or a project, you could say, of opening data about agriculture, and it was supposed to be information management system in agriculture. Could you tell us where you are at on that? And if there's a chance for opening more information, I know there's about cereals, that information that is always shared, maybe weekly, but the site is dormant. So I don't know if you could help us on that, because that would be a great source of information. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Onyango, the lady in red skirt, for your high caliber research and development. You spoke about quality research. In 1998, when I started my research program, although I don't even have a university degree, I was inspired by David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel. Research is no longer an abstract intellectual pursuit. It is a central factor in every civilized society. I live in a civilized society. I've made 5 patents. For stalling, it's only 1 under my control. Now, how can you prove to me that we have agricultural university, yet we are starving from end to end? What I'm trying to ask you, what do you use to decide this is a quality research and this is a local research? Me, I'm a local researcher. the caliber you use to stratify. This is a quality research program. This is a local research program. Thank you, Dr.
Okay, it looks like the first questions went to the PS, so we'll ask you to answer those.
And the World Bank people, we are moving in that direction. We are proposing the establishment of Kenya Agriculture Knowledge and the Information Management System, which will be housed at the Agricultural Resource Information. CALRO under the World Bank, under the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project, is being supported robustly to go big on data, and also the Meteorological Department is also being supported under the same program. So in the next 2-3 years, you will see a lot of movement in this space. So we are working very hard in those areas. But I know also I've interacted with a lot of small private companies that are working very closely with counties around the issue of GIS technology to facilitate decision making. Vihiga County is doing it very well. I know Dr. Otichilo is himself in the area of remote sensing, so he's really applying that technology at the small scale level, and I think other counties can also learn from them. Basically what we are doing is trying to create a system where data producers and data users are interlinked through a platform. There's so many platforms put together, but the information digested in such a way that the farmer can get the information either through an app on the mobile, and the policymaker can get them on a dashboard in his computer, and so on and so forth. So we are working very hard in those areas. And the issue of static websites, I think it's a question of the data producers and the people who are managing the data. The CODI website was a program of the World Bank, the Kenya Open Data Initiative, which closed. And then because it closed, it was not institutionalized, but we are trying to move away from that. These issues of projects have always brought very good ideas, but once the project is over, people move to the next project. So things are not systematized. That CODI was under Ndemo when he was PS. When he left, the other people did not sort of systematize it. But under this initiative, we are going to create an institution that is going to be there. And CALRO and the universities, I think we should be able to have a sustainable system that can support the agriculture sector so that we can work better. Yeah, so that we are not in this situation where we are always struggling. The issues of famine and the issue that we are wrestling with about food deficits and so on, they are planning issues. They're actually planning issues. We plan, but when it comes to implementations, we struggle. So I think it's a question of synchronizing our plans to implementation. And most of it, like I said in my talk, they are governance issues, they are integrity issues. A market which is rigged through brokerage and manipulation to the point where you are discouraging farmers. Fertilizers which are adulterated in the process of being distributed, or they are not reaching the farm. These are things we can fix by just changing our behavior and everybody doing the right thing. And I think we can get back there and making sure that the systems that have been put in place in terms of controlling the integrity actually work, and they are made to work. And I think we are doing the right thing. And His Excellency, the President, the initiatives that he's taking, I think we'll see less of this, so that the production systems are not hijacked just for short-term gains.
Professor Onyango, tell us why we are still starving.
Before I tell you why we are still starving, I want to address the person who asked the question that research I presented here is being done by the university But that does not mean that if you don't have a degree, you cannot do research. We have many innovators that can come up. Even farmers can be an innovator. To that effect, Kenya has actually formed a body called Kenya National Innovation Agency, and is partnering with universities where we are developing incubation centers. And here, you don't have to have a degree. So long as you have an idea, you are welcome. KU has, Jomo Kenyatta is developing one. So you don't have a degree or a higher degree to do quality research. Quality research, you can do your work locally, but so long as it can be recognized internationally, it is still an quality research international. So calling it locally, maybe it's done locally, but it doesn't mean it's not quality. So quality is international standards. So we are not cutting out anybody who is not in the university. Two, when we look at the question you have asked me about why we are starving, I think all of us can answer that question. One of the things that is a complex thing, because one of the things that we need to do is develop technologies. And as a university, we have tried to develop technologies. Even you heard the PS saying, Carlo has developed technologies. Some of these technologies have not been translated to the end users. But besides the technologies, there are other issues that I think if I open up Pandora's box, and I know whoever asked knows that, the issues about us starving. We have the technologies, we have the resources, we have land, but there are issues about land, there are issues about corruption, there are issues about ABCD. So we are not starving because we don't have technologies, we are not starving because we don't have manpower, we are not starving because we don't have the potential. We have the potential, but that is a problem that needs to be solved by all of us, including the media. There is mindset, there is policies, there is research, there is something that also we need to look at as a government, as a people, and that's why we are having this conversation. Universities or research cannot answer that question alone, and I think it's something that is very important. It's a shame that we are starving when we have not just Jomo Kenyatta, we have Egerton, we have Calro, we have very high caliber researchers. So the question is, from today, ask yourself, why? The women representing Migori has said some things. Mindset, it's a complex issue, and we need to address it, all of us. I don't have answers. We need to find answers today, from today, all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, just adding something small to what Professor has said. When we started off, I was telling you in 2011, when we talked about these probiotics and what have you, he pumped a lot of microbiome science into my head. And we realized that what is missing in Kenya is not the technology, it's not the knowledge, it is not the research. But this research is actually lying in the shelves. And according to me, even why I became very prominent in the research that was only done by scientists was the connection between the knowledge in the shelf and the people. And in fact, like I was telling you, I'm a strategist. That is the bit that I was providing. The scientists have discovered something, but then now translating that idea or knowledge or innovation into a language that the ordinary user down there can understand. That is a big missing link in our Kenyan society. And I think that is an area that really needs to be addressed. So the role I played in this, and it succeeded, was simply to translate their idea. You know, when you go to the village and you tell somebody who is milking their cow that they are probiotics, what are probiotics? Then you say they are germs. Now germs make people sick, you know. So I had to explain that germs, there are some that are very good for your health. There are others that are very bad. You know, at some stage, we forget all the biology that we learned in Form 1, Form 2, and now we only know germs cause disease. We don't know that there are some good bacteria that are actually healthy for us. So the role, what I wanted to add here is, all of us need to bridge that gap, and that's why we are appealing to the media Is it possible we can engage with the scientists, the innovators, and help speak that which they are saying in a language that ordinary mwananchi can understand and run with? I think that is very important. It explains why we are starving. For example, in Migori, where I come from, it is difficult enough, expensive to produce the maize. But because the kind of brands that we have now, the types of maize, they cannot go for like 3 months before they rot. So you find everybody selling them immediately at a throwaway price. A gorogoro is the 2 kg mkebe, at 25, 30 shillings. And so they get nothing compared to what they used to produce it, the time, the energy, the money, for the fertilizer and all that. So next season, they are so discouraged. Why should I plant again? And so if we can play that link, the gap, and maybe, I believe Kenyans would not be starving if each one of us played their role properly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll say 2 things. One is the one I'd said before, the link between the researchers, the policymakers, and the ground. We need to see how do we ensure that link is reduced so that we can be able to say whatever comes from our research institution, whatever comes from the policy area is able to be translated effectively on the ground so that the people can understand. The other aspect which I talked about, looking at agriculture as a business, this is something that we probably need to give more attention in terms of ensuring that people understand that there is value in agriculture, and we probably need to map our country in areas that should produce which crops. Sometimes when I travel from here to Nakuru, you'd reach a place called Maimayu, somewhere there, and you find a crop of maize. Every year, these guys never harvest. But yet they still continue to, sorry. Yeah, you find that these people continuously produce maize. Even when they know, they may really not harvest this maize. So I think there is need to assist the policymakers to be able to communicate in terms that is clear what crops should grow in which areas of our country. And of course, I did mention about the training, what we are doing at Strathmore. There are several courses for primary production, secondary production, value addition. We even have a course for the media with Bloomberg that ensures that the media are able to report business. And I'm sure we have interacted quite a bit. Some of the people in the media have gone through Strathmore University working with Bloomberg to ensure that this is reported in a business sense. So I think there are issues that really we need to address. We need to see how we can translate this. Now, looking at the Big Four agenda, what do you call it? Big Four agenda, isn't it? I think it's a good thing for this country. We need to embrace it. The president has done well, and I think the media will help us to drive this. I know there's a 5th agenda that the president is very passionate about that is happening, and that is addressing the issues about ourselves, about corruption, that we probably look at ourselves afresh and say, what do we need to do for our country? What do we need to do in terms of the positions, the responsibilities we've been given, so that we can deliver value in those positions? If it's in parliament, we should not hear noise of parliamentarians investigating sugar, much more. And then there's a lot of issues that the guys who are involved are talking to the MPs. You know, it doesn't. But I'm happy you came up with some good report that probably if it's followed, it will bring something. I think we need to talk about these things openly. And it's only the media that can help us. We are looking up to you. Thank you very much.
Okay. I really wish we had more time, but we've run out. For now, I'd just like to thank our panelists, Mr. Ayub Macharia, Professor Boga, Dr. Onyango, Honorable Dr. Odhiambo, and Dr. Kirwa. Thank you very much for your input as experts. Clearly, we have a lot of work as the media and as people who are interested in food security. This is a problem not just for policymakers and experts. This is a problem for all of us. As media, we would like to have more from you people in terms of opinion pieces. Talk to us, look for us, hunt us down with whatever it is that you want us to share with the public, and we'll see how we can translate it into something that every Mwananchi can understand. Thank you very much.
Yo. Thank you so much. Because of time, we're not going to take too much time, appreciating what they have done. As you can see, we brought you researchers, people who know what is happening in the world of agriculture and environment. Professor Mboga has been in the research industry for many years, and is the immediate former VC of Taita Taveta University, having being one of the pioneers of establishing that university, and is one of the most successful universities, new universities in the country. And therefore, we really appreciate that. We really appreciate him being here as a PES. Agricultural research, department of the state, and I hope we have learned something and we are taking something with us home. Let us give the panelists who are here around a big round of applause, a bigger one as we stand, please. Let's go. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, and we are happy that you came here. Thank you.